I was wrong. That's what James Comey said. Let me play for you a bite from his interview on Chris Wallace. This is James Comey's version of, I guess, I'm sorry. I guess that's what it is. Take a listen.
Remember how we got here. The FBI was accused of criminal misconduct. Remember, I was going to jail, and lots of other people were going to jail. People on this network said it over and over and over again. The Inspector General did not find misconduct by FBI personnel, did not find political bias, did not find illegal conduct. Inspector General found significant mistakes, and that is not something to sneeze at. That's really important. But the American people, especially your viewers, need to realize they were given false information about the FBI.
Really, an FBI lawyer has been referred. That's number one. Number two, listen to Horowitz discuss vindication.
Former FBI Director James Comey said this week that your report vindicates him. Is that a fair assessment of your report?
I think the activities we found here don't vindicate anybody who touched this.
Okay.
I think that James Comey has a real personality defect, and I say that from observing things he said over the last few years, as well as some friends of mine that worked with him at the Department of Justice. He assumes, and this is the defect, in any given situation, that he is more morally pure and smarter than whoever he's dealing with. And so when he comes up on Fox News Sunday and admits this, I'm so suspicious, because when you admit something like this, it makes you appear a good person. It belies the fact that his op-eds recently have gone just the opposite way.
Exactly.
He claimed to be vindicated, but suddenly he's going to be honest and transparent, and he's doing it, Jay, in my opinion, because it makes him look good, and that's what James Comey is always about.
I was wrong. I was overconfident in the procedures that the FBI and Justice had built over 20 years. I thought they were robust enough. It's incredibly hard to get a FISA. I was overconfident in those because he's right. There was real sloppiness. 17 things that either should have been in the applications or at least discussed and characterized differently. It was not acceptable.
You shouldn't be wrong about any application for a warrant before a federal district judge. But when you go before a court and you're asking it to spy on an American citizen, you better be very sure of what your evidence is. And again, I don't know who far up the chain reviewed this, but certainly Comey knew about it. And those high officials in the Obama Justice Department knew about it. I still am convinced. And they presented that to a federal district judge to get a warrant to spy on an American citizen. Absolutely horrendous. And you can't just get out of it by saying we were sloppy.
James Comey signed the FISA warrant. His history and his record as FBI director suggests that he has always been clueless. He continues to ignore evidence right in front of his face suggesting FBI bias and the fact that the FBI doctored information. The FBI knew that Steele was a liar, essentially, and continued to investigate an American citizen, Carter Page, by claiming he was a Russian agent, even though he was working for the United States government.
We talked about how these 17 errors kept being compounded. So they would make the 17 errors up to 51 times, right? Because they didn't correct them along the path. So 17 really became 51 errors that began with 17 errors on top of what I'm calling it was an email that was doctored, but it's evidence that was doctored by by Kevin Kleinsmith of the DOJ, who was an attorney who doctored an email so that they could get the FISA warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. That Kevin Kleinsmith then gets moved over to the Mueller team. And eventually the IG comes to Mueller and says, you got to remove this guy just like you got to remove Strzok because he's got this just unbelievable bias against President Trump. He's a guy who now we find out was willing to break his, potentially lose his law license. Which could happen to him. I mean, he's got a criminal referral, but that easier to lose your law license than even be convicted of a crime because he doctored evidence to get a FISA warrant on an American citizen.